Devin Brown has entered the transfer portal. Let's talk about it. Devin Brown has entered the transfer portal, and I think this was something a lot of people saw coming, but they didn't necessarily want to say it. And it's interesting, right? Devin Brown has become one of the most controversial players on this Ohio State team, and he's really not played all that much. I mean, he played in 6 games on offense, completing 6 of his 16 passes for 28 yards and 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. He was the and this was last year. He was the red zone quarterback last year. He was the quarterback that came in when Kyle McCord left the team for the transfer portal last year, and he put out the burning boats. Like, he's one of these guys that, even though he wasn't starting for Ohio State, he seemed to give his all and always be there when Ohio State needed him. And he's going to continue to do that as he's going to stick with the team for the rest of the year and through the playoff run. I don't know if that means that he'll commit to somebody else or whatever. Honestly, I could see it kind of like a Will Howard situation, maybe, where Will Howard wasn't necessarily going to come out and be Ohio State's quarterback for sure coming out of the transfer portal until after the game happened, but it was pretty well known behind the scenes that Will Howard was going to be that guy. I mean, even at the bowl game, he was kind of hanging around the team a little bit and stuff, kind of quietly, but I think Devin Brown could definitely be in discussions with some other teams, and definitely be somebody that other teams look at very, very fondly, depending on where they're from and what goes on. Because at the end of the day, Devin Brown was looked at very highly coming out of high school. Now, he was ranked as the number 1 player overall coming out of the class of 2022. That was on 3. Now, it was not that high on 24/7 rivals and stuff like that. Still relatively high for those, but not nearly that high. He wasn't a 5-star those other places, but I believe that gave him a 5-star composite on 24/7 with how high he was on 3. But he never lived up to those expectations. And at Ohio State, again, he was just such a controversial player. And I think a lot of that stemmed from the rumors about him possibly starting going into the 2023 season. And Ryan Day even said it in one of his press conferences, like, there in the preseason of 2023, like, Devin Brown was the guy at one point. Those rumors were confirmed that he was the guy. And then Kyle McCord late in that process just came in and took over and won the job. And Devin Brown never seemed to be able to get a grasp for it. Now, I still contend, I think Devin Brown would have started, or not started. I think he would have came in for Kyle McCord in that Wisconsin game and took over the starting role if he had not gotten hurt against Purdue. I think you already saw it starting with how he's coming in the red zone and starting to play kind of more as maybe the mobile guy who kind of be able to run around and help them out in the red zone a little bit more. And I felt like that was just kind of progressing into him becoming the starting quarterback. And the Wisconsin game seemed like the game that would have happened, but of course he was injured for that one. But I mean, that's kind of the history of Devin Brown, right? What has brought us to this point where this quarterback could be so controversial, and it's not even really his fault, right? Like, I've always loved Devin Brown. Stories about Devin Brown taking Will Howard under his wing and showing him the tradition of Ohio State. I think it was the spring game when maybe it was Joel Klatt or Jenny Taft was talking about everything that Devin Brown had done to help Will Howard get acclimated with being at Ohio State. I mean, they literally brought Will Howard in to be the guy over Devin Brown, and Devin Brown is doing everything he possibly can to help this guy get acclimated to Ohio State. Now, we can argue if that was the right decision or not and everything, but at the end of the day, I think that's admirable for somebody to do that, and I think that really focuses in on him being a really good teammate and a really good guy, and also him being willing to disregard some of the transfer portal, the benefits of not playing on a team while he's in the transfer portal by sticking with Ohio State and continuing to be the backup quarterback. And I think that's the biggest question, right? With Devin Brown going into the transfer portal, does he remain Ohio State's backup quarterback? I think yes. And one of the reasons why I think yes is because he has the experience of playing in games. And so I think Ryan Day values that, number one. And number two, he is a closer fit for Will Howard than Julian Sayin is. I think that's been one of the reasons why Devin Brown has been the backup quarterback this year, is because he is a closer fit to Will Howard with the ability to run, with kind of the bigger body, the experience. That's not the most experience in the world, right? But he started a bowl game, even though he got hurt in that game. He came in relief in other games. He's played for Ohio State in multiple games now, and so I think that that's why he's going to continue to be the starting quarterback. But as most people would project, like Julian Sayin is most likely the future for this team. And as long as Ryan Day is the head coach, I think Julian Sayin has a very good shot of winning the starting role this next year. Now, I would not say it is a 100% chance that he wins the spot next year, even with Devin Brown transferring away, because as we know, Ryan Day loves himself some taller quarterbacks. Ryan Day has disregarded recruiting certain quarterbacks because they are not tall enough or they are not big enough, and he's recruited other guys over them simply because of their size and ability. Julian Sayin is only 6'1", 203 pounds, is what he's listed at on the Ohio State website, which, as we know, a lot of these college websites can kind of overinflate guys' heights and stuff like that a little bit. We remember they did that 100% with Bryce Young in his Alabama days as well. But I I think Julian Sayin is the guy for next year, but I wouldn't be 100% on it because Ryan Day does like himself some taller quarterbacks, some better built guys, and we've also heard rumblings about Ohio State going after some of the guys in the transfer portal. Was it the guy on cover three? I can't remember if it was Tom Fornelli, if it was Danny Cannell. They talked about Ohio State going after Miller Moss. Now, I don't believe that hardly at all. I don't think Ohio State would go after Miller Moss to bring him in as the starter next year. Maybe they would. I don't think Miller Moss was benched at USC correctly. I think that that was kind of Lincoln Riley trying to save his job, or maybe not exactly save his job, but kind of save his perception, right? As kind of having like a scapegoat for the offense. Like, hey, I'm known as this offensive guru. Here's the reason why the offense isn't working. Look at Miller Moss. But Miller Moss also has some parts to his game that would be a little bit more difficult to fix that I don't know if Ohio State would go after. One of the things I kind of harped on all year on my Big Ten podcast that I do is Miller Moss really struggled with identifying where the blitz was coming from and communicating to his offensive line to block that. That was actually one of the biggest issues that they had against Michigan. And I think their offensive line got kind of some bad credit. Not get me wrong, I'm not saying USC had a good offensive line. It was not a very good offensive line, but I think that Miller Moss's issues with trying to identify the blitz, communicate that to his offensive line, and change the pass protection attributed to those issues as well. But I don't think Ohio State would go after him. The other report that we saw today was that Ohio State has apparently been in discussions or shown interest in Jackson Arnold, the quarterback from Oklahoma. Jackson Arnold, another very highly touted recruit, somebody that Oklahoma was very glad to get. It did not work out for him this year at Oklahoma. Had a season where he struggled. If you want to go look up all the stats and everything, you can, but it was not a season that went very well for him. He enters in the transfer portal, and now apparently his two teams that he's talking to are Ohio State and Notre Dame, with a slight lean to Notre Dame. So, with Notre Dame and what they do with bringing in transfer quarterbacks, I would say that's probably what will happen there. But Ohio State being willing to kind of go after some other guys leads me to believe that maybe this isn't just 100% Ohio State is going to go with Julian Sayin next year. I still think it's the likely choice that they'll go with Julian Sayin. But as we know, Ryan Day is pretty particular with the type of quarterbacks that he wants to bring in and he wants to work with. And he did recruit Julian Sayin. So I'm not saying that, like he never wanted Julian Sayin or anything like that. He recruited him. He wanted him in his program. So that's why I still give the slight lean to Julian Sayin. But, if Julian Sayin enters the transfer portal, this year, I would be surprised. I wouldn't say I'd be like outright shocked though. Again, I'm not predicting it'll happen. Don't get in the comment section and say, why are you predicting Julian Sayin is going to transfer? I'm not predicting he's going to transfer. I'm just saying that if it did happen, it wouldn't like outright shock me to an absurd level. I would be surprised, but I wouldn't be like outright shocked if it did happen. But at the end of the day, I think it's interesting that Devin Brown into the portal, rumblings about Ohio State possibly going after a transfer portal quarterback, and Julian Sayin looking like he should be the guy. He has the arm talent and all those things, but he just doesn't quite have the size that Ryan Day wants. So, but again, he did recruit him. So it's not like he just disregarded him, and he brought him in, right? Ryan Day didn't have to bring Julian Sayin in from Alabama. That was something he wanted to do. So let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the whole situation. I'm sure we'll learn more in the coming days, but that's just kind of my instant reaction to the whole thing. If you find time, go send Devin Brown a nice tweet off his thing and just say thanks for being a Buckeye. I think he got a lot of unwarranted hate for a lot of stuff, and I don't think it was necessarily all his fault. I'm not going to go into all that, but I think Devin Brown, I'm going to remember him well. And if there's any guy that I hope kind of has a Joe Burrow career, it's Devin Brown. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good one.